Kyogre throws the surf, essentially it just tickles. The opponent switches out into Lugia. Zygarde already approaching the red, and if you're wondering just how thick it is, well, you're about to find out. Zygarde able to make the third crunch, getting Lugia down below half health. The opponent trying for the Dragon Tail farm down. Zygarde just refuses to die, making crunch number 3. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at something very different from my normal content. Today we're going to take a look at the most ridiculously busted core for the Open Master League. You can see on the screen we've got PV Poke open, we've got the team builder section, and we've inserted Zygarde and Solgaleo, and just look at the results. We've got an A, B. Just with these two mon inserted, we've got a threat score of around 500. I think it's actually 517, which is absolutely ridiculous. So if you're wondering why it's such a ridiculous score, we've also now got on screen the top Master League threats, and you can see that we are core broken by absolutely nothing. So if you're a hardcore grinder like today's featured battler, one of my good friends Pat, this gives you a great example of what you can do in the Open Master League. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1 we see the battle of the dragon types. Our Zygarde is actually level 51. For those of you wondering, I believe it's a 15, 12, 13. Not the best, but it is what it is. You only get one, and already look at the ridiculous bulk on this thing. I have never seen a neutral Shadow Ball do so little. Even with the Shadow Claws, we're still in the green. The opponent reaches Shadow Ball number 2, and Zygarde just doesn't need to respect anything. The opponent fires off the second. We tank them both. The opponent bring in Dialga. We switch out into Solgaleo, drawing out Kyogre. You can already see that Zygarde is going to be a real menace. I actually think this is the reason they nerfed Earthquake, because let's not kid ourselves, it already looks ridiculous. You need to give this thing some kind of a nerf. Solgaleo into Kyogre isn't the best matchup, however Solgaleo has another ridiculous stat product. You can see, despite our fire spins being resisted, we're able to withstand the waterfalls. Keep spamming out Psychic Fang after Psychic Fang, forcing the opponent to shield first. We now bring in our third, which is Metagross. If you're wondering why we've got Metagross, because this is the home of Shadow Pokemon, and Pat said, fuck it, I'm going to put a Shadow on just for you, Jamie, and my god, I appreciate you, buddy. As we've lowered this Kyogre's defense into oblivion, we shield up both serves. Back out comes the big tin can. Pat goes for the masturbating session, forcing a protect shield with the Meteor Mash. Pat looking to reach the Earthquake. The opponent going to strike first, but they're going to need to full send the Draco Meteor to secure the knockout, which they do. Back in comes Zygarde. Zygarde's ridiculous bulk coming in clutch. We withstand the Dragon Breaths, make the Earthquake. Earthquake secures the knockout. Back out comes Kyogre. We get the Dragon Tail farm down, and we're off to a 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we see the basic bitch tin can in the lead. We see the say switch into Metagross. The opponent stays in. Farm up some energy. They continue to stay in, so Pat again going for a cheeky masturbating session. Fires off the Meteor Mash, forcing an early protect shield. Much like in the previous battle, this tin can's going to have to full send a Draco to secure the knockout. Pat dares them. The opponent also tries their luck at masturbating, and we do not shield that. Pat able to reach the Earthquake. The opponent choosing to invest both protect shields. They have got alignment, however, they are now all shields down. Pat sends in Solgaleo. The opponent can throw whatever they want. Solgaleo resists it all. The opponent full sends the Draco, which does around half our HP, then pivot out into Mewtwo. Mewtwo about to get the debuff treatment. And it is Zygarde time. Mewtwo with an absolutely ridiculous attack stat. Used to two-shot on a lot of things, but not today. Trainer Side Strike essentially does nothing. It may as well have been resisted. I've seen resisted Side Strikes do a lot more damage than that neutral one. Pat chews the shield up the next one, trying to keep his Zygarde healthy with an over farm. Throw 3 Dragon Tails and the crunch for optimal fast move time. It's going to be high Mewtwo, by Mewtwo. The opponent likely to return with the tin can. However, the tin can not going to appreciate our residual energy. Pat already at the crunch. Crunch gets the tin can low. We snipe with the fire spin. The opponent's final Pokemon is Landorus, and Landorus also about to fall victim of the debuff treatment. Solgaleo so incredibly annoying in the Master League. The opponent opting to throw a charge move. Before they get too low, the opponent throws the Stone Edge, which does secure the knockout back out. Comes Zygarde, but the opponent's going to need to make 3 charge moves, which I think is an impossible task. Pat with 1 protect shield, refusing to shield here. The superpower doesn't do enough damage. Pat shields the next one, the Dragon Tail sneaks, and that's going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Zygarde with bulk for days. Oof, rough lead. We see the instant pivot into Metagross. The opponent farms up some energy and send out Ho-Oh. Let's see if this opponent manages to RPS our ridiculously busted core. Pat fires off the Meteor Mash, very nice timing. Both Meteor Mash and Earthquake are resisted, but Meteor Mash is the way to go, as it is much more energy efficient. Pat fires off the second Meteor Mash, getting Ho-Oh incredibly low, and the opponent actually chooses to dump energy. So despite Metagross being pretty hard countered, we've managed to do quite a lot of work in the safe switch. Pat hasn't managed to flip alignment. We send out Zygarde. Zygarde looking for the Dragon Tail farm down. This Firebird makes one more Brave Bird, and again that just tickles. Switch timer pops up. We pivot into Solgaleo, the opponent looking to go for the chip and dip. We still both got 2 shields apiece, so we shield up the neutral close combat and draw out Lugia. Solgaleo does resist everything, however the opponent's 2 protect shields could be a problem. We fire off the Psychic Fang, lowering Lugia's defense. Lugia also ridiculously bulky. I think Zygarde is actually the only Pokemon in the Master League that has better bulk than it. Pat this time full sends the Iron Head, and even with a -1 defense, Lugia tanks that like an absolute boss. Solgaleo likewise tanks the resisted Aeroblast fairly well, however we're already approaching the red health. The opponent fires off the Sky Attack. Solgaleo will withstand the damage. Switch timer pops up again. We look to snipe with Zygarde. The opponent, very quick reactions, pivot back out into Xerneas. We full send the Earthquake. Earthquake, go shielded. Yikes. It's going to be all down to our low health Solgaleo to clean up this battle. Pat needs to save his Protect Shield. Moonblast does secure the knockup. Back out comes Solgaleo, and Pat going for a very risky bait. If the opponent call it, it's going to be game over, and the opponent's huge cojones come in clutch. Pat this time going to full send the Iron Head. The opponent going to invest that Protect Shield, and the opponent's going to take the dub. GG's to that opponent. Zygarde, Rayquaza. This is going to be a matchup where our stat product is just going to far out bulk the opponent. You can see our Dragon Tails doing a lot more damage than the opponent's. Pat makes a very nice catch of the breaking swipe onto Solgaleo, drawing out Kyogre. This is by no means a good matchup for Solgaleo. However, the Psychic Fang spam is real, and the opponent is going to get debuffed into oblivion. This Surf won't be lethal, and we're going to debuff them once again. We withstand the Surf damage, fire off Psychic Fang number 2, which is going to get this bulky blue whale down below half health. Zygarde shares the same typing with Garchomp, so we are neutral to water. However, you can see the waterfalls don't do a lot, and the opponent would have to full send a Blizzard to do any meaningful damage. Pat over farms, fires off the Crunch, which does secure the knockout. The opponent's final Pokemon is Xerneas, and Metagross is now going to feast on the remainder of the opponent's team. This is definitely a matchup where you'd prefer the regular Metagross for that extra bulk. You can see despite them only hitting us for resisted, we're already below half health. Pat throws 1 Bullet Punch and the Meteor Mash. The opponent invests that first Protect Shield, however they're getting incredibly low. Pat can shield up the next breaking swipe, which he does, and then get the full Bullet Punch farm down. Metagross says, feed me that Xerneas. Back out comes Xerneas. Pat continues to farm up. Metagross is deep in the red, but we're not going to get Geomancy. Farm down. This Meteor Mash is now 2 stage lowered due to the breaking swipes. However, Metagross doesn't care. The first Meteor Mash forces the Protect Shield, and I reckon the second one will still probably be lethal. The opponent does just about survive, but 1 further Bullet Punch is enough to take that game. Another BDD in the lead. Most people call it Best Buddy Dialga. I like to call it Basic Bitch Dialga. We see the pivot into Metagross, and again we're hard punished with a Ho-Oh. Typing advantage very much with the opponent, but Shadow Metagross hits like a truck with first Meteor Mash. With the Bullet Punches gets them down. Below half health, we fire off the second Meteor Mash, what looks like to be a CMP tie. The second Meteor Mash is on the CMP, and we force a Protect Shield. Metagross, you monster. Pat able to get himself shield advantage in the mid game, and now we've got the most ridiculously busted core upper shield. Pat sends out Zygarde. Zygarde could look for the full farm down. As you can see, we can tank 2 Brave Birds. The opponent looked for the actual Sacred Fire first. Pat says, thank you very much, I'll just get even more farm. Another player fell victim, being horny for the debuff. This time the opponent fire off the Brave Bird. Zygarde doesn't care. Back out comes Dialga. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Earthquake rocks him. Down below half health, we pivot into Solgaleo. The opponent's final Pokemon is Lugia, and this should be game, set, and match. Pat with a 2-to-1 shield advantage, not being horny for the debuff, going straight Iron Head, and I'm very grateful for that, because my god is this a long boring matchup. Pat fires off the second Iron Head, getting Lugia down below half health. This is enough for an Aeroblast. I see no reason to bait. Pat still hanging on to 2 Protect Shields. Solgaleo will just about outpace to the next Iron Head. The opponent now with enough energy for a Sky Attack. Is this Iron Head lethal? No, it's not. So we see the pivot back out into Zygarde to catch the Sky Attack. Sky Attack does nothing, fucking hell. Zygarde, why won't you just die? The opponent does manage to Dragon Breath Farm us down, Pat looking for the 2-shield flex, and we get it. GG's Mr. Opponent, and we're very sorry for our ridiculously bulky team. You can see Pat goes 4-1 in that set, moving on to the next set. Zygarde into Heatran, a pretty neutral matchup as we're both hitting each other for resisted. The opponent pivots into Haxorus. Trainer, that isn't the switch you're looking for. Haxorus, a real glass cannon with a very high attack stat, but that breaking swipe did pretty much nothing. Pat then farms up a boatload of energy, makes a very nice catch of the breaking swipe onto Solgaleo. Does the opponent commit to an Earthquake? Nope, another trainer very horny for the debuff. The opponent fires off the second breaking swipe. Can Pat Fire Spin farm down? It doesn't look like it, so we opt to throw the Psychic Fang. Psychic Fang does secure the knockout. Solgaleo's already in the red, which will mean the return Heatran's going to get minimal farm. And Solgaleo going to fire off yet another annoying debuff before going down. The Psychic Fang doesn't do too much, but does lower Heatran's defense. Pat banked the Earthquake. Before he left, the opponent attempts to catch the Earthquake onto Rayquaza. Very nice discipline from Pat. Pat fires off the crunch, forcing the first Protect Shield. Rayquaza users love to shield. We fire off the second crunch. The opponent invests both Protect Shields, and here comes Metagross. I'm going to say it as I see it. The opponent down 2 Protect Shields. I think they are very much coping. The only win con for you, trainer, is us having a heart attack. And as I'm making this video, we certainly did not have one. Pat fires off the Meteor Mash, securing the knockout back out. Comes Heatran, the opponent looking for the Fire Spin farm down. Metagross says no, and this debuffed Earthquake gonna vanquish Heatran back to their Pokeball. GG's, and thanks for playing. Pat chalking up another nice 2-shield flex, moving on to the next battle, Zygarde into Mewtwo. I think this is one of the matchups where Zygarde's bulk really shows, as 2 resisted side strikes almost knock out Dialga, whereas 2 neutral side strikes on Zygarde certainly do not. That is just absurd. Who at Niantic thought this was a good idea? Please tell me. Zygarde very comfortably wins the 0 shield. It looks like that is what Pat's playing out. We can now throw 3 Dragon Tails and the next crunch before the next side strike. Okay, I'm wrong. It looks like Pat's going to go for the 1 shield farm down leave with residual energy. Both work, why not take alignment? The opponent sends out Dialga, we bank all the energy, pivot into Solgaleo, drawing out Giratina. Giratina gonna fall victim of the debuff treatment. Solgaleo pretty bulky, can we survive a Shadow Ball from this range? No we can't. I guess it was me coping there. What Pokemon is going to tank a super effective Shadow Ball from 65% HP? Back out comes Zygarde. We force the first Protect Shield with the crunch. Is Pat willing to invest his final protection in? No, he's not. Yikes. It's now all down to Metagross, and this looks really, really rough. I think this is going to be a loss. Let's see what Pat's cooking up. The opponent at another Shadow Ball. Pat respects it. They force our final Protect Shield. Send out Dialga. Pat going for a bait, but I don't even think a bait saves us at this stage. We do force the final Protect Shield. The opponent fire off a move. Is this only an Iron Head? I think they're a couple Dragon Rush short of a Draco. What do I know? The opponent's running Thunder, and they're going to secure the dub. GG's. Yet another BDD. This is why I hate Master League, because Dialga's here, it's there, and it's every fucking where. Pretty much on 99% of teams. We save switch into Metagross, and again we're hard punished with Ho-Oh. We fire off the Meteor Mash. This one isn't a Shadow and doesn't do all that much damage. The opponent not wanting to get hit with the second Meteor Mash, opt to throw energy. Sacred Fire does secure the knockout. We know Zygarde's got bulk for days, so hopefully the opponent does us a huge favour, fire off the Brave Bird, which is going to allow us a much easier farm down. The opponent does fire off the Brave Bird. Brave Bird doesn't do too much. Zygarde does get the full Dragon Tail farm down, back out. Comes Dialga. Pat goes for the Crunch bait. Crunch forces a Protect Shield. We then see the pivot into Solgaleo. The opponent's final Pokemon is Giratina, and this is not fantastic. Pat is up shields, but where do you spend them? Shadow Ball we've seen is going to probably knock us out from this range. Pat with 2 Protect Shields calls the ominous Wind Bait. Okay, we're cooking. Pat able to reach Psychic Fang, number 2, which is now going to do decent damage to Giratina. Giratina now below half health. If the opponent looked for the full Shadow Claw farm down, would make one further charge move. Pat saving 2 shields for his Zygarde. In comes Zygarde. Zygarde going to be able to get the full Dragon Tail farm down. Pat going to need to start shielding. We shield up the Shadow Ball. Zygarde gets the full Dragon Tail farm down. And again, we're going for the bait. Is the opponent going to call it? Yes, they are. Pat kills a poor defenseless cat with a masturbating session. He's now going straight crunch in this battle. Can Zygarde make one further crunch? We cannot. And the opponent's going to get the dub. Shout out to everyone watching. Remember, every time you masturbate, a poor defenseless cat dies, so sometimes you just want to YOLO the nuke and hope for the fucking best in the next battle. Normal service has resumed with another opponent running Dialga. We save switch into Metagross, drawing out Kyogre. We tank the Surf, return fire with the Earthquake, and we force a Protect Shield in the mid game. Back out comes Zygarde. Unless the opponent commits to a Blizzard, which this opponent does not, Zygarde certainly doesn't need to shield. These Surfs are looking absolutely pathetic out here. Pat continuing to farm up, the opponent going straight Surf, the second Surf still not going to be enough to force a Protect Shield. The opponent not wanting to get farmed down, pivot out into Lugia, and Zygarde's bulk about to be put to the test. The first crunch goes unshielded. Zygarde already at the second crunch. This crunch gets Lugia down below half health. Zygarde refusing to die, able to make crunch number 3, and this is going to leave Lugia deep in the red. Zygarde putting in so much work. It's now 2-shield Solgaleo versus the world. Pat correctly shields up the Aero Blast. It is resisted, but does do around 45 to 50% of our HP. Pat looking for the full Fire Spin farm down. Lugia reaches the Sky Attack before going down, but Sky Attack doesn't do much. A Sky Attack is a pretty shit move. Back out comes Dialga, and it's time to debuff this tin can into oblivion. Solgaleo has a lot of work ahead of it, as that Kyogre is still at around 30% HP, and this is one very healthy Dialga. Back out comes Kyogre. Pat overfarms, fires off the Psychic Fang. The opponent has reset their debuff. They're just using Kyogre as the damage sponge. Back out comes Dialga. Pat already at the next Psychic Fang. My god, is this thing spammy. Is Solgaleo going to be able to 1v3 a team? Solgaleo already at the next Psychic Fang. Is the opponent willing to shield? They are not. It's going to be a race. Can Dialga double up on charge moves? It cannot. And Solgaleo does complete a very impressive sweep. Well played, Pat. Moving on to the next one. Zygarde into Shadow Mewtwo. Can Shadow Mewtwo two-shot a Zygarde? Let's find out. Does this Side Strike do half of our HP? No, it doesn't. Holy crap. Even with a 20% Shadow bonus, it looks like we're going to just about be able to survive 2 Side Strikes. We land the crunch. The opponent looking to play out the Zero Shield. Zygarde will survive this next Side Strike. Pat opts to send out Metagross. Get the Bullet Punch farm down and a running start. The opponent answer our Metagross with their own. They're behind an energy, so Pat is not baiting. Does the opponent respect the damage? Yes, they do. Boo, Mr. Opponent. As the opponent's behind, I think they're going to bait. Pat does shield up the Meteor Mash bait. However, Pat is going to go straight Earthquake regardless, and we win CMP. Pat full sends another Earthquake. The opponent invests both Protect Shields. Is Pat just going to take his shield advantage here? Yes, we are. The opponent again fire off a Meteor Mash. Pat saves his Metagross, aggressively pivots into Solgaleo. Is the opponent 3 for 3 on baits? Pat this time correctly shields up the Earthquake. Holy smokes, the opponent letting us get the full Fire Spin farm down. They finally pivot out. And the reason they've stayed in is because, of course, they've got basic bitch Dialga in the back. However, I don't think giving us this huge running start on energy was the correct play, Mr. Opponent. Pat able to throw Psychic Fang after Psychic Fang, and Solgaleo is just about healthy enough to even survive a Draco from this range. Switch timer pops up. I thought we were going to go for the catch. Pat doesn't go for the catch, but the opponent does need to full send the Draco. Even a Draco doesn't get the job done. We get the Fire Spin farm down, and the opponent see the writing on the wall, shout out to Home Size Henry, and concede the match. We see David versus Goliath, our huge Zygarde into the tiny Malouetta. We save switch into Metagross, drawing out Groudon. The opponent fires off the Fire Punch that doesn't get the job done. I think they're going to actually have to throw again now. I don't think they can Mud Shot down before the next move. The opponent commits a Protect Shield and they're forced to throw again. Metagross putting in a whole heap of work. Pat recognising he might be able to flip switch or force both Protect Shield. Metagross looking like a monster, to be honest. I don't know why Shadow Metagross is ranked so low, because he's put in so much work so far today. Pat sends back out Zygarde. The opponent farm up some energy. Send out Malouetta. Malouetta does take super effective from the non-stab crunch. We then see our own pivot back out into Solgaleo that does resist everything in Malouetta's arsenal. Oof, I think that Psy Shock actually healed us up. Pat looking like he might go for the world's most aggressive Fire Spin farm down. The opponent this time throw the Dazzling Gleam that does hit for more damage. However, we're still very healthy. Pat farms up to 100, fires off the Psychic Fang. Psychic Fang doesn't knock out, so we are going to get even more farm. This is only a Psy Shock. Psy Shock does nothing. Pat looks for the full Fire Spin farm down. The opponent goes for the Wham Bam combo play. Send out Groudon. They take us out with the Fire Punch. Pat putting all his hopes and dreams on the back of Zygarde. The opponent full send a Precipice Blaze, and finally we see a move do decent damage to Zygarde. The opponent at another Precipice Blaze, so Pat force invests his final Protect Shield. Can Zygarde sweep below half health? We haven't even seen the opponent's third yet. Is it something we can one-shot? No, it's the Tin Can. The Earthquake nerf gonna come in clutch here, as Earthquake isn't gonna be lethal. The opponent gonna be able to Dragon Breath farm down. No, hang on. We make the crunch. How healthy is that Malouetta? I think one quick move will probably take us out. No, it's a tie. What a game. GG's to both trainers. Zygarde into Shadow Tyranitar. Let's go. Great spice from the opponent. We save switch into Metagross, and it's actually a Simul swap as the opponent save switch into the Tin Can. The shiny variant, but still a very basic bitch pick. We shield up the Iron Head. It looks like Pat very much wants alignment. We fire off the Meteor Mash bait. Pat kills a defenseless Cap. We do force a Protect Shield. Metagross now reaches the Earthquake on the CMP tie. Pat tanks the next Iron Head like a boss and is now shielding emphasis on the opponent. Does the opponent want switch advantage? Yes, they do. Switch timer pops up. Pat saves Metagross as a sacrificial swap, pivots into Solgaleo and goes straight for the horny debuff. Psychic Fang doesn't do too much, however we are going to be able to farm down unless the opponent's willing to give up switch. The opponent going to full send the Draco Meteor. We tank it like a boss. Back out comes Tyranitar. However, they have no Protect Shields to hide behind. Iron Head doesn't do enough damage to get the job done. The opponent looking for the Smackdown farm down. We reach a Psychic Fang. Psychic Fang is double resisted. The opponent still withstands the damage. Tyranitar leaves a whole heap of residual energy. We snipe with the Dragon Tail. The opponent's final Pokemon is Rayquaza, and Zygarde upper shield pretty much going to be unbeatable. Pat doesn't even respect the break-in swipe. We return fire with the Crunch. Crunch, despite being only neutral and one stage lowered, it actually does more damage than the opponent. We look to make the catch. The opponent anticipate the catch, get the Dragon Breath farm down. However, we leave with the Crunch locked and loaded. Finally, Pat going to invest the final Protect Shield. We shield up the break-in swipe, return fire with the Crunch, and Pat takes a very fun dub. I enjoyed that one. GG's to both trainers. As I don't have Master League Mon, it's pretty rare that I get to shoutcast Master League. However, I am having a lot of fun today. I hope you all are as well. In the next battle, we see Zygarde into Landorus. Just look at the Dragon Tails. This is Bulk versus Glass Cannon. And you can see the ridiculous stat product again coming in clutch. The opponent bait with a Stone Edge. No trainer. My top tip would definitely be don't bait the most ridiculously bulky Mon that Pokemon Go has ever brought into the game, as it isn't going to go well for you. We fire off the Crunch. That doesn't get the job done. Despite Landorus lowering its own defense, they fire off one further superpower. We win the Zero Shield, pivot into Solgaleo, drawing out Giratina. Solgaleo going to be its annoying self and fire off the debuff, lowering Giratina's attack. We've still got two Protect Shields, two hide behind. We look to throw the next Psychic Fang. Is Pat going to invest a Protect Shield here? No, he's not. And we get Vanquish back to our Pokeball. Pat did still save some health on his Zygarde, so back out comes Zygarde. We throw two Dragon Tails and the Crunch. Ideally, you want to throw on odd numbers. That would only give away one free turn of energy. When you throw on an even number, you give Giratina an entire free Shadow Claw. Pat shields up the ominous wind. The opponent looked to snipe with Dialga, and we send out Metagross. We now find ourselves in the bait game. Pat goes for the bait first. Is the opponent going to YOLO the Draco? Pat invests the protection. The opponent lands the bait. Pat also looking to land the bait. You two trainers think of the poor defenseless cats. It's now going to be a race. Can we outpace to the Earthquake before the Draco Meteor? We cannot. And even a resisted Draco Meteor is going to secure the knockout. Zygarde on such low HP isn't going to be able to do enough damage. We fire off the Crunch. Crunch won't be lethal, and Dialga is going to be able to Dragon Breath farm down and take that game. Rough lead, but the team is set up with two Fairy Ants in the back, so we see the pivot into Metagross. The opponent stays in, looking to go for the chip and dip, and in the process taking a lot of bullet punch damage. Pat shields up the close combat, recognising the opponent probably doesn't have a great answer, and it's revealed they certainly do not, as they send out Lugia. Lugia doesn't appreciate this matchup, especially down on energy. The opponent shield up the Meteor Mash. Metagross says there's plenty more of where that came from. We fire off the second Meteor Mash, getting Lugia down below half health. The opponent farms up to an Aeroblast. There's no reason to bait, but Pat doesn't respect it. Metagross withstands the damage and able to make Meteor Mash number 3. Is the opponent willing to shield? No, they're not. We flip switch, and that is going to be huge. The opponent running double Fairy, so unfortunately Solgaleo has a lot of work to do as Zygarde has absolutely nowhere to run. I've got no idea what we're going to do with Zygarde in this battle, as Solgaleo pretty much has to put the team on their back. The opponent fires off the close combat pivot out into Xerneas. Pat going straight for the Iron Head. Iron Head forces a shield, but Pat able to reach Iron Head number 2. Please do enough damage to secure the knockout. The opponent actually get one shot. Okay, Solgaleo looking primed to sweep this team, especially when we make a savage catch. This is definitely the best use for Zygarde. That close combat did nothing. The opponent very sad after that catch, and they concede the match. In the next battle, we see another fairy lead. We see the pivot into Metagross, drawing out Giratina. Again, things don't look fantastic, but neutral Meteor Mash going to do huge damage, forcing a Protect Shield on the CMP tie. Pat just going to take his shield advantage in the mid game. The opponent go for the Ominous Wind. Metagross unfortunately not able to reach the next Meteor Mash. But we can now send out Zygarde. Zygarde going to operate as a very good damage sponge, as we've seen Shadow Balls just tickle this thing. I still can't get over how little damage that does. It's just absurd. Giratina fires off one more Shadow Ball, and Zygarde says thank you very much. The opponent not wanting to get farmed down. Send out Lugia, and this is exactly where we want to see it. As we've got so much residual energy, we're going to be able to reach at least 2 crunches, perhaps even 3. Come on Zygarde buddy, can you make the third? Pat opts not to get farmed down, sends in Solgaleo with a 2-to-1 shield advantage. Pat gonna not respect the Aero Blast. Okay, what's Pat cooking up here? Pat continuing to farm up, throws the Iron Head at a range where hopefully Iron Head is lethal. Iron Head doesn't secure the knockout. Are we going to shield up the Sky Attack? Yes, we are. So I think we probably likewise should have shielded up the obvious Aero Blast. I don't think you bait Solgaleo back out. Comes Giratina. Pat fires off one Fire Spin and the Psychic Fang. Psychic Fang goes unshielded. Pat farms up to the Iron Head, baits with the Psychic Fang. Psychic Fang forces the protection. Okay, win confound. We've just got to land the Iron Head. No, Pat goes for a catch. I think we might have found our win con. We need to commit to the Earthquake. Pat, you're doing a Jamie Finn special here. Throw in this game. The opponent going to be able to quick attack farm us all the way down. Oh, hang on. We could have a win con here. Do we win CMP? I've got no idea. Let's find out. We fire off the Iron Head, lose CMP, and Pat does the Jamie Finn 1-4-1-5 special. Goes to the catch for no reason whatsoever and gives the opponent the dub. GG's. Zygarde into Metagross. Our Dragon Tails are resisted, but as is the Shadow Metagross, it's still going to chunk. The opponent farms up. Make a very nice catch. Catching the crunch onto Lugia, but it's still super effective and still does respectable damage. Are we going to see Pat return the favour with his own crunch? Perhaps, but first he's going to fire off crunch. Number 2 crunch. Goes unshielded, then we pivot into Solgaleo. I think I personally would have went Metagross, as we like Solgaleo aligned with that Metagross. However, I don't play Master League, so we'll let Pat battle and I'll stick to Shoutcasting. Solgaleo farms up, fires off the Iron Head at a range where Iron Head should be lethal. Down goes the bulky Lugia. The opponent can't return with Metagross. They're forced to show their third. It's revealed to be Dragonite, and Pat going to full send the Iron Head. Iron Head goes unshielded, and to be honest, doesn't do all that much damage. Solgaleo, a bit of a wet noodle, if I do say so myself. Pat able to reach one further Psychic Fang. If the opponent looked for the full Dragon Tail farm down, I think we're even going to wait one more. Solgaleo does reach another Psychic Fang, which is going to get Dragonite down into the red. The opponent with a boatload of energy. We send in Metagross, we then pivot out into Zygarde. Is Pat finally going to invest the Protect Shield here? It looks like we are not. Even Shadow Meteor Mash doesn't do too much. What a tank. The opponent already at the back-to-back. Finally, Pat invests the Protect Shield. Shield at the Meteor Mash. Return fire with the crunch. Is this where the opponent invests their final Protect Shield? Yes, it is. The opponent looking for the full Bullet Punch farm down. It's one shield Metagross versus the world, and this is now the bait game. Pat needs to either correctly shield an Earthquake or call the bait, as the Dragonite's got a whole shit ton of energy. We shield up the Meteor Mash. Return fire with our own Meteor Mash. This will be securing the knockout, but can Metagross survive back-to-back superpowers? I don't know. It's going to be close. This superpower does quite a lot of damage. This next one's going to be really close. Do we survive on 1 HP and a dream? We do not. GG's to that opponent. Very nice lead, Zygarde into Ho-Oh, aka the Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death Master League Edition. For those of you that follow my channel, we all know the Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death is known as Talonflame. However, that's not really very relevant in Master League, so Ho-Oh claims the role here. This opponent playing exactly like a Talonflame user, going for the stupid bait. I've got no idea why you'd bolt the bulkiest Pokemon Go has ever released. The opponent this time probably going to send the Brave Bird. Nope, this opponent addicted to the bait and the attempted debuff. We withstand the damage, fire off the crunch. Crunch does secure the knockout. The opponent now going to send in Dialga. We see the pivot into Solgaleo, drawing out Zekrom. I'll be honest, I was expecting Giratina. This is better for us. Our fire spins are still resisted. However, there's no chance of nuking the shit out of us with a Shadow Ball. Crunch would be super effective, but doesn't get the same type attack bonus. The opponent actually throw the Fusion Bolt, an easy tank. We fire off the next Psychic Fang. Zekrom now below half health. Both trainers still hanging on to 2 Protect Shields. Solgaleo able to reach the next Psychic Fang. Does the opponent give up a Protect Shield? It looks like they're saving their 2 shields for the big Tin Can, but Solgaleo still not done. Able to permanently put the debuff treatment onto Dialga. The opponent looking for the full Dragon Breath farm down, which they get, but we can now send in Metagross. The opponent's win con is probably landing a Draco. Pat still with 2 Protect Shields, doesn't respect it. Are we going to lose with 2 shields? Pat farms up a boatload of energy. What are we going to go? We go for the Wham Bam combo play. Sending out Zygarde, firing off the Crunch. Crunch forces the final Protect Shield, and it looks like we're going to go for the fast move beatdown and get another 2 shield flex. GG's and thanks for playing. Zygarde, Rayquaza. This should be neutral, however it certainly isn't because we have a ridiculous stat product and the opponent doesn't. Pat makes a very nice catch, catching the break-in swipe onto Solgaleo. Let's see what the opponent counter swaps. They send in Ho-Oh. This isn't fantastic, but as always, Solgaleo going to be super annoying and just continually debuff the opponent into oblivion. The opponent going to be forced to throw. I think we'll actually make 3 Psychic Fangs. They look for the full Incinerate farm down. The second Psychic Fang gets them almost below half health. That break-in swipe debuff is super annoying. The opponent does finally throw. When they're at 100 energy, Sacred Fire secures the knockout. Back out comes Zygarde. We go straight for the Crunch. Pat this time not going for the aggressive farm down, and to my surprise the opponent invests the Protect Shield on the Crunch, looking to get off the Brave Bird, but Zygarde really doesn't care. The opponent fire off the Brave Bird. Zygarde says, what is that? The opponent then pivot back out into Rayquaza, and here comes Metagross. This video really has been the story of debuff after debuff. The opponent fire off the break-in swipe. We easily withstand the damage. Pat looking for the 1 shield and farm all the way down. However, Ho-Oh is still alive. We're a 2-stage lowered attack. I don't think a Meteor Mash is going to be lethal. We do get the Bullet Punch farm down. Back out comes Ho-Oh. You can see Pat insta through here. You always want to throw the 2 Bullet Punches before the charge move, because the opponent's already going to sneak the Incinerate regardless. So our Metagross would have left a lot more healthy. However, we do still get the Bullet Punch farm down. We fire off the Earthquake into the opponent's Solgaleo. Pat looks to get off the Crunch, but we lose CMP. Pat not going to shield the first Psychic Fang. The second does do more damage, but we're incredibly low. So I suppose you probably had to shield, but evidently Zygarde just never dies. The opponent looking for the Fire Spin farm down. We sneak the Dragon Tail. As long as we're not on 1 HP, we can shield this up, get off the Crunch, and that is going to be all she wrote. Zygarde's ridiculous bolt coming in clutch once again. GG's and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we lead Zygarde into Mewtwo. A very nice lead. However, the opponent probably doesn't know that yet, as Mewtwo used to 2-shot in most things in neutral matchups. However, trainer, this is not one where you can do that. The opponent fires off the Side Strike. They're probably looking at their phone thinking, did I miss bubbles? What the fuck's going on? Well, what's going on is Zygarde is just a tank. We get the defense drop, so Pat might actually be able to get the full Dragon Tail farm down before the next move. Let's see. The opponent recognising they're probably going to get farmed down. Send in Lugia. We're going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch lands for not that much damage, if I'm being brutally honest, as we are somewhat of a wet noodle. And here comes Metagross. The Crunch didn't do that much damage, but we did get the defense drop. That does now mean this Meteor Mash will be lethal unless the opponent shields. The opponent just completely sack their Lugia and send out Melmetal. Melmetal doesn't have the best matchup against Metagross either. So Metagross looking primed to sweep. We fire off the Meteor Mash. The opponent does call it, but that did huge resisted damage. The opponent's going to have to lower their own attack, firing off Superpowers. The opponent does fire off the Superpower, which doesn't knock out. We now fire off the Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash will be lethal or force a shield. The opponent does shield and they throw on CMP, and that is going to be game over. The opponent fire off yet another Superpower. In comes Solgaleo, and Solgaleo is going to be able to easily sweep the pack line. We send back out Zygarde, and the opponent concede the match. GG's. Zygarde into Excadrill. I can't wait to see the drill run. It's definitely going to take 2, perhaps even 3. Let's see. Excadrill, pretty hard hitting. Whoa, it looks like 3's not even going to get a job done. The opponent thinks, fuck this, and pivot into Lugia. We fire off the Crunch, fishing for the defense drop this time. We don't get the defense drop, but we still answer with Metagross, as Metagross definitely doesn't fancy that mole. Unlike the last battles, we didn't get the defense shot. This Meteor Mash won't be lethal, but that's probably better for us. So we're going to be able to tank the Aeroblast, commit to the Bullet Punch farm down, and we're going to have minimal farm for the return of Excadrill. We tank the Aeroblast, Commit to the bullet punch farm down, leave almost at the earthquake. Back out comes Excadrill. We're only going to make one move, so you may as well YOLO it. Excadrill probably going to shield everything. The opponent does shield up the earthquake. Do commit to the Mudshot farm down. However, where's this energy going, trainer? We've seen Zygarde tank these moves for days. The first drill run comes through. Zygarde tanks it like a boss. These drill runs come thick and fast. Excadrill already at the next one, and Pat still not shielding. Pat farming up. Oh, I think we probably should have thrown the crunch. Pat with 2 protect shields. We do finally invest a protect shield. The opponent then look to snipe with Rayquaza. They don't successfully snipe. We get off the crunch, but that next Dragon Tail probably knocks us out, and it does. It's now all down to Solgaleo to sweep the back line. We do resist everything from this Rayquaza. However, the debuff going to be very, very annoying, as when Excadrill does return, our fire spins are going to do even less damage. We fire off the Iron Head. Iron Head isn't lethal, so we're going to get debuffed once again. We're now going to have a 2-stage lowered attack. Pat going to be forced to throw on this Rayquaza as well. Pat fires off the Iron Head, recognising Psychic Fang won't be lethal. Iron Head certainly will, despite a 2-stage lowered attack. Back out comes Excadrill. Excadrill looking to double up on charge moves. Pat reaches the Psychic Fang. Psychic Fang is resisted. It doesn't quite knock out the opponent at the back-to-back. We sneak the fire spin. Pat commits his protect shield, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Huge shout out to my good friend Patmanscoop for showing us what you can do as an incredible grinder in the Open Master League. That is a very busted core of Zygarde complete, level 51, and a Solgaleo. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, link to battle submission form is down below. We're currently in somewhat of a fucking monsoon in the UK, so if you heard any background noise, that'd be rain pelting off my roof. It is ridiculous weather here, so I can only apologise for any poor audio. I'd just like to say thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.